What is up, YouTube? My name is Evan. If you like what you see today, be sure to give that little like button down below a tap. Every little bit does help. And today we are going to look at a pretty budgeted card, but a pretty powerful one, Lilligant from the Breakpoint expansion. It's got 80 HP, and for 1 grass energy, Boohoo is the attack we're going to use. It does 20 damage, but if your opponent attaches an energy card from their hand to the defending Pokemon during their next turn, that Pokemon automatically falls asleep. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, sleep's not necessarily that good because they have to toss a coin and they have a 50% chance of waking up, right? Well, except for the fact that it comes when they attach an energy to their Pokemon, meaning that it's during their turn, meaning the next opportunity they'll have to toss a coin to wake it up will be after their turn is over. So Lilligant can be a pretty powerful deterrent for Pokemon that are trying to power up in order to attack it. And if they can't even be awake long enough to attack it, then its 80 HP kind of doesn't matter. We're running 4 of it because we definitely want to get it up as quickly as possible and keep boohooing our opponent until they start boohooing with us. So, to support that, sorry guys, still a little sick here, I'm running 4 Petalils, which are here, yeah, pretty much just to get to the Lilligant. And because our opponents might still power up otherwise, we are going to be using Slowking to back up our Lilligants. With its Royal Flash, we got a coin toss chance for each Slowking every turn to move an energy from it to one of their benched Pokemon, so that Lilligant can keep boohooing them into never being able to attack. And the best part is, you pick the Pokemon on the bench that gets the energy. So you can attach them all to, say, something like a Shaman that's not necessarily that threatening. It's kind of an endless destructive cycle. So this guy, you want to get just as many of him as you can up and going on your bench so that you can Royal Flash your opponent to Kingdom Come. And of course, we've got 3 Slowpokes for our 3 Slowkings. And going well with our Lilligant to kind of put a little more offensive pressure on, we are running Ariados, just 2 copies because we only need 1 on our bench. And of course, to get him going with his handy-dandy Poisonous Nest, which will hit them but not us, we do have 2 Spinneracks. So the idea here is to kind of get like 1 Ariados on the bench, 1 Lilligant active, at least 1 kind of ready to go on the bench, and then as many Slowkings as possible, 2 to 3 ideally. We have a lot of Pokemon, but that's alright because our whole strategy pretty much revolves around that. Supporter-wise, we're running 3 Sycamores because he is still just an amazing draw card, enough said there. We're running 2 copies of N, and once again, this guy's just kind of self-explanatory. He may not always be the ideal draw card for us, but we got plenty of Versus Seekers to make sure that when we want in, we've got access to them. Also, we're running Teammates. Sooner or later, our opponents are going to break through, and Lilligant's a relatively easy knockout. So Teammates is a great way to maintain our consistency and punish our opponents for what meager prizes they are going to be taking. We're also going to be running 2 copies of Lysander. Lilligant thrives on being able to control your opponent's Pokemon, as well as Slowking. So picking the right thing to be in the active slot at the right time can be very beneficial to us. Not really for picking up knockouts as much in this particular deck as our damage is very low, but rather just as a means of control, and not just controlling whether or not they can attack by having a big heavy-costed Pokemon in the active slot or not, but rather whether or not they have a Pokemon with any energy at all in the active slot. We do have 2 more supporters though. One of them is a Delinquent. Our Stadium is not too big of a surprise here. It's going to be Forest of Giant Plants. But after pretty much your first turn, the Stadium's not nearly so useful. Delinquent can turn that into a powerful secondary means of control, as our opponents will probably be trying to play everything they can to try to outpace us, but in the end, that 1 energy per turn is still going to hamper them. Delinquent can really tear up a small hand, and it's something we're going to want to have repeat access to. And if we're not eating their Stadiums, we can easily feed this card our own to put our opponent in an even worse situation. But our other little backup supporter that we've got here is Team Rocket's Handiwork from the new Fates Collide set. And yeah, it's a coin toss card, alright, but it should be discarding an average of 2 cards from our opponent's deck. Why is this important? Well, while we can win by taking prizes, if you look at the damage our Pokemon do, it's not very much. So this is a sort of an alternate win condition. For opponents who don't just automatically scoop out of sheer frustration, this card can offer us a way to win that most opponents may not see right away, and that's okay. Firing this off a few times will probably give us all the momentum we need to make sure that they deck out first, especially since we can Versus Seeker it again and again if we need to. Plus, it's just a fun card for a more casual deck anyway. Now, as far as our items, we're running 4 Versus Seekers for all the gosh darn obvious reasons that we should all be pretty familiar with by now. We're running 3 Ultra Balls, mainly because we're going to be relying on a different Pokeball for the most part here. But we do want Ultra Ball because it does give it's pretty much our only way to go search out our Slowkings specifically. Everything else is going to be targeted by our next ball, which, let's go ahead and spoil it, is going to be Level Ball. Level Ball gets every Pokemon in the deck and doesn't cost us cards out of our hand, which sometimes in this deck may be a little painful. Not terribly bad, but still, it's something to be aware of. So Ultra Ball is here mainly for Slowking, but we can get him other ways too, so we don't necessarily need a full set of 4. But like I say, this card, we can always fire it and find a happy target pretty much every time. And we're going to be thinning our deck out to increase our consistency in other ways, hit other cards we're going to want. We are running 4 Forest of Giant Plants just to make sure that we can get our Lilligant and our Ariados up as soon as possible. And of course we can feed it to the Delinquent and counter other stadiums with it too. We're running 4 Crushing Hammers. It's one more way to take advantage of Lilligant's Boohoo and Slowking's ability to control energy as well. These can pick off energies that otherwise might be getting ahead of us and make sure that we kind of maintain control of our opponent's energy, as without energy control of our opponent, we're pretty much going to lose because we're not winning the damage race. So this is once again control, control, control. We're also running 2 switches, as Lysander can be a little bit problematic for us. We don't necessarily want to pay those retreat costs if we don't have to, and sometimes we'd rather attach to the Pokemon on the bench so that it can attack. So Switch is a very nice utility card that we're more or less compelled to run to keep things going smoothly. And we also run 2 Super Rods. We're going to be discarding some extra Pokemon that may be getting knocked out, but we also want access to our energies, as we only run 9 total. So Super Rod gives us access to both, and 2 means that something getting prized or having to be discarded early doesn't necessarily mean we no longer have the ability to do that, because that could be pretty crucial for us, as this deck is often kind of a war of attrition more than anything with our opponent's energies. We've got 8 grass energies total here, and that's pretty much all we're going to need. We're running 8 almost just so that we can draw it more than anything else, as Lilligant is rarely going to want more than just the 1 grass energy. But we could use this theoretically to power up Lilligant's second attack, or maybe even attack with Ariados. It's not likely, but who knows? It could happen. Strange things can happen in a deck like this. And finally, we do run 1 water energy, just in case we need to attack with Slowking. This will give us the option to access his Psych Up attack, which deals 40 damage at first, but then will be dealing 80 on successive turns. So if we absolutely need it, we could theoretically knock somebody out with Slowking as well. So just options. If you want to add money to the deck, of course we can put in a few other cards. We could certainly change it around too. We could add things like Muscle Band, maybe put a little more power into it. But I will leave that to you. In the meantime, give this deck a try. It's a lot of fun just to kind of mess around with your friends. It's a really fun casual deck, and it's an interesting approach to winning the game. And online, you'll definitely win a lot of matches just from opponents conceding, not wanting to play it out. So anyway, until next time, like, comment, subscribe, check me out on Twitter. My link is below as always, and I will see you next time.